Tap into Tuesdays. The topic today is why is cultural appropriation a problem? And my panel members are Cesar, Cameron, Hermela, and Samantha. Just a reminder to all viewers, please keep your mic off as well as your video. And all the questions you can leave in the chat room and they will be answered in the last 10 minutes of the video if we do have time. So let's get into it. The first question today is, what is culture? Hermela, can you answer that for me, please?
A definition of culture that I found was that it is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behavior and norms that are found in societies, as well as any knowledge, beliefs, customs, laws, and habits of the individuals in that group.
Thank you, Cameron, would you like to further elaborate?
Hello, everyone. So the definition I have for culture is a way of life of particular people as shown by their behaviors, their habits, their attitude towards people and each other, and their moral and religious beliefs.
Thank you for your answer, Cameron. Cesar, can you answer that for me, please? What is culture?
Okay, I have culture refers to anything associated with a group of people based on their ethnicity, religion, geography, or social environment. This may include beliefs, traditions, language, objects, ideas, behaviors, customs, values, or institutions.
Thank you, Cesar. Sam, would you like to answer that for me?
Well, the definition I have for culture is like it's an umbrella term used to describe, that just basically encompass the behavior, the social behavior of a specific group of people, and like just to describe all their knowledge and their beliefs, their arts, their customs, their capabilities, and habits of a specific group of people.
Thank you, Sam, for your answer. So we can move on to the next question, which is, what is cultural appropriation? Cesar, can you answer that for me, please?
Okay, cultural appropriation refers to the use of objects or elements of a non-dominant culture in a way that doesn't respect their original meaning, give credit to their source, or reinforces stereotypes or contributes to oppression. That is the definition I have.
Thank you for your answer, Cesar. Sam, can you answer that for me, please? What is cultural appropriation?
Cultural appropriation is the unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of customs, practices, ideas, and stuff like that of one people or society by a more dominant people. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Hermela, can you answer that for me, please? What is cultural appropriation?
Okay, so I agree with Cesar and Sam. So it's an unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of an element of a person's of a culture or an identity by members of a more dominant culture or identity.
Thank you, Hermela. Cameron, can you answer that for me lastly?
So I basically had the same definitions, just adding on to that, it happens within a specific power dynamic. So it's usually a dominant culture or dominant individual in a place of privilege that would take advantage of or appropriate and use a non-dominant culture's practices or elements or whatever in a way that is inappropriate and without acknowledging the significance of those elements.
Thank you, Camden, for your answer. The next question, we'll move on to the next one, which is, I'm just going to swap question 4 and 3 for the panel members. What are some examples of cultural appropriation? What are some examples of cultural appropriation? Sam, can you answer that one for me first?
There are like the ones we all know about, like the appropriation of certain hairstyles, like braids and dreads. When people that's not a part of their culture adopted to look edgy and for fashion sense, completely disregarding the cultural meaning behind it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Sisa, can you answer that for me, please? What are some examples of cultural appropriation?
I basically had the same as Sam, and I was just talking about how dreadlocks for a white person would be seen as trendy, but for a Black person, it's seen as untidy and filthy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your answer, Sisa. Pamela, do you have any more examples that you would like to add on?
There was also a trend going around pretty recently called the fox eye trend, where people that weren't Asians would try to, make their eyes look more Asian-like, make it more smaller, or without acknowledging the fact that people with those eyes naturally would get bullied for them, and teased for them and mocked for them, and then they would do it for, like we said, fashion or like just for a trend. And then at the end of the day, I think the fact that you can remove it and you don't even know, how you're hurting the people around you, and the fact that you're contributing to stereotypes and stuff, makes it cultural appropriation.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Amila. Camden, can you answer that for me? Do you have any more examples?
I have quite a few more. The very obvious ones like blackface, and then the not so obvious ones like blackfishing, wearing of braids and dreadlocks, using cultural wear as Halloween costumes or as festival outfits. I have, specifically in the African context, wearing of specific beads and jewelry. So I know, like in the Zulu culture, there's specific beads that mean specific stuff. And for example, only Sangomas wear white beads, but then people that don't know that would wear the beads because they think it looks cool and because they're African, Then like henna tattoos is always a trend in December's where people go and get some henna tattoos all over their bodies. And then also like tattoos as well, when people get those tribal tattoos or like Chinese words written on their bodies and things like that. They don't know the significance behind the art that they're putting on their body. They're just putting it on because it looks cool.
Yeah, those are some really, really interesting examples. Thank you guys for your answers. Now we can move on to the next question, which is, why is cultural appropriation a problem? Sisa, can you answer that for me first, please?
Okay, well, I think Mela sort of touched on it in the previous question about how most people who are of these cultures get bullied or get discriminated for these things, these particular things, whether it be a religion or like Cameron said, your beads or whatever, hairstyles, they get discriminated, and then other people go and take it, and it's kind of like okay for them to do it, where they don't know the background or the hurt that comes with all of those things. So, and sometimes it's seen as exploitive to the dominant to the non-dominant culture when a more dominant culture goes and appropriates their culture. Because sometimes, for instance, with some white vendors, you'll have white people selling beads, Xhosa beads, and actually making a profit out of that. Whereas with Xhosa people, we make them, and sometimes when you sell, people won't do that. But if a white person went and did that, then they would make more profit off of it. There's an exploitation to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for just explaining that to us, Sisa. Cameron, can you answer that for me, please?
So basically it goes down to the definition that I brought up, and it's like the specific power dynamic. For like marginalized groups have been kind of forced to conform to the norm of the dominant group. For example, like straightening their hair, speaking in a white voice at work, speaking in a white voice when you want to be professional, and stuff like that. And then as soon as that dominant group that has been oppressing that other, the marginalized group, just takes something that is not of their culture and gets to wear it without that discrimination, without that oppressive whatever, like, braids are not seen as professional in the workplace, but then a white woman can wear braids or dreads as a trend and for fun. So basically, cultural appropriation comes from a place of either intentional hurt or out of a place of ignorance. These people don't understand the significance behind the hairstyles, the outfits, the way of life. Like I'm thinking the different incenses that Indian cultures use, things like that. And you basically, you're pretending to be of a certain race, and you're reinforcing and drawing on stereotypes of those races, of those cultures and stuff, to do so. So you're doing it from a place of privilege and not acknowledging that privilege.
Thank you for that, Cameron. Sisa, you had your hand up.
She basically said what I was going to say towards the end. I was going to make the example of like someone adopting a colored accent on like TikTok and then getting more views than an actual colored person would. She's kind of touched that towards the end.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. Thank you for that. Sam, can you answer that for me, please? Why is cultural appropriation a problem?
I think Sisa and Cameron hit all the points about how cultural appropriation allows members of a more dominant group to gain profit and influence and acclaim off of copying and stealing parts of a non-dominant group's culture, and aspects of that culture that non-dominant group get criticized for and demeaned for and stuff like that. Like the many people that culture appropriate are people with a lot of influence, on social media or just in general. And many of them do gain profit because of this newfound attention that they receive and stuff like that. And it just shows that it just that this dominant group can take something from this non-dominant group and make a profit of it. It just leaves a bad taste.
Definitely does. Thank you for your answer, Sam. Hermela, is there anything that you would like to add on?
I think everyone has definitely, said all the stuff. But yeah, so basically the fact that they pick and choose elements that they find, appealing, and then ignore any cultural context behind it. Maybe it's important to your culture, maybe there are some cultures that don't even allow other cultures to practice what they're practicing. And some dominant cultures will take that and practice it, even without even understanding, any significance or context behind the actual culture. Not to mention, like they say, the exploitation and that side of the nature of cultural appropriation, and the fact that later on they can, for example, they have white people, white girls go and braid their hair, and before a job interview, they can go and just undo those plates, you know, and they're back to their natural hair, and they wouldn't get you know, discriminated against for it. But then a Black woman would have to, you know, keep her braids in because that's the way she protects her hair, you know, and then she would get discriminated against at work and so on and so forth. Like also with accents, same thing. People go and put on Black accents just to be, you know, popular and edgy and cute. And then later on, whenever they want to appear, you know, professional and like a nice person or like a better person or whatsoever, they just drop the Black accent, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, Meera. Cameron, got your hand up?
I just wanted to add that it's a further way of oppressing that marginalized group, because like Hamida said, you can take it when you want it and then leave it as soon as it's not cool anymore. Like all these trends with the fox eyes or with certain outfits and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, Cameron. So we can move on to the next question now, which is, what is cultural appreciation? Sam, can you start off with that one, please?
I define cultural appreciation as earnestly seeking to learn about or explore a different culture. It's when you genuinely learn and listen and understand and seek to honor this culture without disrespect, like it's genuine.
Thank you for your answer, Sam. Sisa, can you answer that for me, please?
My definition is similar. It's cultural appreciation is respectful borrowing of elements from another culture with an interest of sharing ideas and diversifying oneself. When someone seeks to understand and learn about another culture in an effort to broaden their perspective and connect with others cross-culturally.
Thank you, Sisa. Hermila, can you answer that for me, please?
Okay, so my definition was also very similar to this. I don't have much to add. Just that, yeah, like, you know, for you to be appreciating instead of appropriating, it would need to be actually seeking to learn and listening and trying to honor the beliefs and the customs and you know, the culture of this group of people that you're trying to you know, take that element from, or like, you know, learn that element from.
Thank you, Amina. Cameron, is there anything that you would like to add on to that?
I love Cisa's answer. Like it's a way of connecting with other people beyond what you know and learning and exploring more than just beyond yourself. And I just wanted to add that it's not for personal gain. It's not for money. It's not to beautify yourself. You're literally doing it so that you're able to understand people more, understand people other than what you're used to more as well. And doing it in a way that honors belief, tradition, and in a way that's respectful.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron, for your answer. We can move on to the next one now, actually. And that is, what are some examples of cultural appreciation? Hermila, can you answer that for me, please?
Okay, so some examples that I have is like you would buy an art, you know, or clothing or any items like that, and instead of buying it from some white vendor that, sorry, generalizing here, but if you're buying, but if you're buying from, you know, like a person, you need to buy it from that specific person that has that culture or that has ties to to that culture, so that the creators can actually benefit from you culturally appreciating, taking time to learn the significance behind this item that you purchased, or that you're borrowing or anything like that, and how it should be used or how it shouldn't be used. A specific example would be like buying chopsticks to eat food with. So you would buy these chopsticks, you would learn now how to use them properly. You would buy them from an Asian, I'm not sure if it's specifically Chinese, but you would buy them from an Asian vendor. And that would be now cultural appreciation.
Thank you for that explanation, Amala. Cameron, would you like to answer that?
So just appreciating other cultures' foods and eating it the way they would like to eat. And like I know sushi, for example, has specific etiquette. The way you make foods is in a specific way, and you just appreciate the food for what it is and not try change it and profit from the way you change it. I have an example of visiting and like, for example, going to a mosque or traveling to a predominantly Muslim country where you'd wear a scarf to cover your head to show respect. There's a lot of countries as well that don't like certain parts of your body being shown, and you cover that up. More examples. I have a friend who had a wedding, an Indian wedding, and her bridesmaids all got henna done traditionally by an Indian lady with the correct symbolism and all of those things. That's most of the examples that I have. I'm sorry, acknowledging another culture's holidays and significant events and celebrating them for that. Like, for example, Ramadan, you acknowledge that and you celebrate that as well.
Very, very good examples. Thank you, Cameron. Sisa, can you answer that for me, please?
Cameron gave most of the examples I was going to give, but something I wanted to actually say was that another way of showing cultural appreciation is to actually do research, like why Muslims celebrate Ramadan or Indians celebrate Diwali, or why you have the henna on your hands, or different things like that. So you have a deeper understanding. Like, it ties in with my definition of what cultural appreciation is diversifying yourself, and then also trying to, calling out people who are appropriating. That is a way of appreciation, I feel, that, that no, actually, you're not supposed to be wearing those beads because in that specific culture, it's only these people that are supposed to be wearing those beads. Or no, actually, why are you speaking in a colored accent when you know that that isn't your accent? And why do you have braids on when you know you can just take them off and you don't need a protective style? Things like that. But yeah, there isn't much I would add. I think Hermela and Cameron covered most of it.
Thank you, Sisa. Very, very great example as well. Sam, can you answer that for me, please?
I think Mela, Cameron, and Sisa said everything that needs to be said. It's just when borrowing aspects of another's culture, it's just acknowledging that culture and not dismissing it, and just making sure it's known that you've done your research, you know what this meaning is, and you're respecting it for its cultural significance to the culture from which you borrowed it from.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Sam, for your answer. Okay, so that brings us to our last question, which I think kind of ties with question 6 as well. But the last question is, how do you go about appreciating certain aspects from others' culture without being disrespectful? Sisa, is there anything you'd like to add onto that question?
Well, I basically said most of that. The research and kind of, educating yourself. I think that is the best way, is to educate yourself onto why these people are doing these things. And also, I think if you are being called out on appropriating a culture and, you know, the people of that culture are offended, maybe ask yourself why. You know, why are they offended? Maybe they've been going through something about this. You know, for instance, like we all brought up braids as the example, right? And that's because I know that a lot of Black girls get like, I don't want to say bullied, but bullied is the only word that comes to my mind right now in school about it, you know, whether it's from our peers or even teachers, you know, even in the workplace. Dreadlocks. I know I had dreadlocks, and it was just, you know, a lot of the time it was like, oh, you have dirty hair, nah, 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 you know. So I think it's just educating yourself and actually like realizing that, you know, sometimes this is not just a trend, it's actually people's realities. You know, people are actually living those lives, and you can come in and out of it as you go. Cameron mentioned blackfishing. You know, that's another thing that you must just educate yourself on, like why a lighter skinned woman or white woman trying to look like a Black woman, and how are they profiting off of it when there's so much hate towards Black women, you know? So yeah, I think I've said most of the things, I think, you know? Yeah.
Thank you, Cecil, for that. Cameron, is there anything that you would like to add on?
I think just be conscious and intentional of what you're doing. Make sure it's coming from a space of love and wanting to understand, and not of a place of wanting to improve yourself or beautify yourself. I think just ask yourself, why are you borrowing this? What is the actual source, and is it respectful for me to be doing that? I think adding on that, just don't take up space. Space where marginalized people could take up. For example, there's a lot of, I was going to give a proper example, but I know somebody that modeled for a specific culture's clothing wear, and they did such a great job and they got paid for that. But when they could have just hired somebody from that specific culture to model those clothing. So yeah, be conscious and intentional, and don't take up space where you are not supposed to be.
Yeah, very, very important. Thank you, Cameron. Hamila, is there anything that you would like to add on?
I think Cam and Sisa, you know, mentioned everything. Like also, I just want to add, you know, I think Cam mentioned the modeling, right? You said modeling. Also actors that play specific races, like in the MCU, I'm just gonna mention one in the MCU, the ancient one, I don't know, in trying to find the name, in Doctor Strange, was meant to be an Asian man, and they had to make it was a white woman playing that role, you know. And yeah, so like things like that, just making sure that you're not out there disrespecting other people's cultures, taking from them, and you know, profiting and gaining from it. I think is the best way to make sure that you're not appropriating, but instead appreciating. You know, like Sisa said, just make sure you do your research. You know what you're doing. Why is it important? You know, how do I do it, and how do I not? What do I not do with this thing? You know, like, because there are things that you shouldn't do with it. And also making sure to, you know, if you want to buy something, buy it from a person of that culture. Don't go and buy it from, you know, some weird person on the street that has no ties to that culture. You know, I think those are ways that you can make sure that, you know, you're culturally appreciating and not appreciating and not appropriating.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, Hamla. Sisa, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was actually gonna touch on what Harriet said about the MCU. Another example of cultural appropriation is the entire Black Panther movie. The entire, just the only Xhosa person that was in that movie was actually John Kani. I think it's T'Challa's father, but everyone else was like either American or like not even African, you know. And there was so many cultures being appropriated in that movie. And then there are questions in the chat room. Chad says, what are your thoughts on people defending those of a lighter skin tone wearing protective styles, or black fishing and saying it's just a spray tan? And then Chris Swatboy says, I know braids or dreads is part of Black culture, so do you guys have any personal reservation about colored girls wearing braids? You see, to answer Chris, I'm just gonna answer Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think colored girls wearing braids, I think it's, for colored girls, it's not that bad because their hair also needs protective style sometimes, you know. Some colored girls have hair like black girls that need protective styles, you know. So I don't think it's that much of a bad thing. For Chad, say with the just saying it's a spray tan, then it's another thing. It's back to what I was saying, how you can go in and out of it. I can't wash away my melanin, you know. I'm black forever. And if a white girl can go and say, oh no, it's just a spray tan, I'll wash it off. No, like that's appropriating, and you need to see that you're wrong there. Pamela, I will let you go because I see the time is running out.
Yeah, Mala.
I just wanted to also like answer, you know, give my opinion. So I'm just gonna be upfront and be honest. I feel like I shouldn't have a lot of opinion based on this. I am black, but I'm not South African, so I don't have a lot of knowledge about colored people, right? But in my opinion, if there are lots of different types of protective styles, right? So if your hair needs a protective style, wear a protective style. Make sure you're not appropriating from a group now that, you know, created that style and uses it in culture. For example, with cornrows, slaves in America. That's why like there's like a whole like huge thing about it, is the fact that slaves in America used to like make maps on their hair to, you know, escape slavery. And without that knowledge and without that like acknowledgement, then it becomes a problem. Obviously, if your hair isn't suited for that protective style, don't do it. But if your hair needs a protective style, then wear a protective style. Just make sure that you're not now infringing upon someone else's culture. And also about the spray tan thing, you can wear a spray tan. It's the problem is when you become so dark now that you're looking like a black person, you know. Like if you're looking like me and you're white, then we obviously have a problem. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, but you can wear a spray tan. Nobody's saying like don't wear a spray tan, you know. So same thing with the protective styles. Like wear protective styles, don't do braids, you know. Like white people just don't do braids. There are other types of braids as well that white people have been doing for centuries. Do those ones, you know.
Yeah, thank you for that, Pamela. Camden.
I think just adding on as a colored woman, there obviously are different types of hair, and there's different styles that you can use. There's different things that different hair needs. I don't think I can speak from the point of appropriating Black culture with braids and stuff, but I just wanted to say, like, coming from me, I know that my hair doesn't need it, so I wouldn't wear it, because if I was wearing it, it would be for a fashion statement and not because this is what my hair needs right now.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cameron. Sam, is there anything you would like to add on?
I completely agree with everything everyone's been saying about how for example, for the question 7 about how to appreciate one's culture, like it's always important to acknowledge where it came from, acknowledge the cultural significance, and just give the culture its flowers. Don't speak over others, and just acknowledge where it's come from and acknowledge that you've done the work to understand where it's come from. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you for that, Sam. Okay, that was our last question. Thank you to everybody that joined, and the meeting is going to end anyway soon. So yeah, thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you to my panel members, and see you next time. Bye.